The rogue wakes up in the middle of the battlefield, gasping for air. She forces herself up. An immense pain fills her entire body. Yep, definitely a few broken ribs there. But even through the agony, she can still move, and that's all that matters. She scans the utter devastation, desperately searching for her party. The scene is grim. The elf is down, the wizard crushed. Only the priest and the hero are still standing, locked in a desperate final battle against the Demon King. The Demon King charges up a torrent of dark energy, unleashing his final move, the Demon King's authority. And then, a foul mist fills the air. And from the ground itself, an army of the undead claws its way to the surface. The rogue looks on in horror. She can't believe the Demon King still had enough power to raise an undead army. Without wasting any time, she shifts into her skull mask and yells to the priest for a power-up. It's time to use the authority. As the priest chants, and her skull bursts into flames. Now fully powered, she carves a path through the undead horde. She tells the hero that she'll focus on the small fry so he can take on the Demon King. With the path clear, the hero and the Demon King clash head-on, their blades shaking the ground. The hero is able to land a devastating blow, cutting off the Demon King's arm. With his glowing sword pointed at the beast's chest, the hero declares, "It's over, Demon King." But the Demon King isn't done. His arm regenerates, and he grabs the hero, trapping him in an iron grip. The boss fight just entered phase 2. The Demon King's core glows brighter and brighter, its energy reaching a critical point. He's planning to self-destruct. But out of nowhere, the rogue swoops in, cutting the hero free. "Hey you," she tells the Demon King cheerfully. "If you're planning to die, let's go together." Then, the Demon King's energy detonates, engulfing her completely. As the smoke clears, the rogue emerges, but the relief turns to horror. There's a massive hole in her side. And behind her, the Demon King is still standing, heavily damaged, but very much alive. But not for long. The rogue kicks the Demon King in the face. He is shocked. She was able to survive a point-blank blast. He pins her down, realizing she must be the same as him, making her qualified to receive it. Then, the rogue lets out a scream, "Do it now." The hero doesn't hesitate. Unleashing his holy sword, Ascalon, he charges forward and slices the Demon King in half. As the monster falls, the hero and priest rush to the rogue's side, only to watch in disbelief as her fatal wound begins to regenerate. "Did you receive the blessing well?" a voice echoes. The hero looks up in disbelief that the Demon King was still alive, but he tells the hero not to worry. His body is done now. He concedes that it's their victory, and he offers them his last message. "My story ends here," he says. "Now it's your turn." His final words are a cryptic warning: may your journey have a different ending than mine, different from us, who were empty, who were foolish. His final piece of advice: pray, do not stop, and move forward. Well, that's, unexpected. With that, the Demon King completely disintegrates, leaving the survivors on the desolate battlefield. The great battle for the world was finally over. The heroes return to a massive celebration. After that, the party go their separate ways. The wizard returns to magic school, and the elf begins the long journey home. The priest returns to his holy duties, and the hero fulfills his destiny by being crowned king. And the rogue, well, she just fades into obscurity. And so, an age of peace settled over the land, continuing for a very, very long time. Flash forward approximately 150 years later, deep in a dark forest, a lone figure stirs. Our former rogue, still alive. Her name is Benlira, now over 150 years old and officially in her emo era. She reflects on how much the world has changed. Mountains have crumbled, plains have become deserts, the only constants are the stars and her. She stares at her skeletal hand, thinking about the curse of immortality. It was a parting blessing the Demon King gave her before he died, a curse that will never disappear. She wonders, immortality for what purpose? What's the point of this endless grinding? If she can't even die and must simply exist, what's the point of it all? What meaning is there if she has to be alone forever? Suddenly, from out of nowhere, a child's voice. Whoa! A shooting star and a skeleton in one night. Benlira is shocked as she comes face to face with a kid? For this immortal being, time had stopped. But with this unexpected meeting on the mountain behind Shangtab village, it suddenly felt like her lonely world is finally starting to move again. Benlira is stunned. What's a kid doing here alone late at night? But instead of screaming and running, the kid does the unthinkable. She grabs Benlira's face and squishes it. With stars in her eyes, she shouts, "It's a talking skeleton." The kid keeps messing with her face, so Benlira finally has enough. "Stop," she says. "You're the first kid I've met who didn't immediately run away screaming." She asks him, "Didn't anyone teach you to be scared of things that aren't human?" The kid just smiles and says, "I was taught not to judge based on appearances." Benlira grumbles that her century-long emo moment has been totally ruined by this weirdo. The kid is buzzing with excitement. "Master, what are you? A knight? That's a cool sword." Benlira puffs out her chest. She's an imperial messenger, but right now she's guarding this mountain with a cursed sword. But she insists she's not a master. The kid's eyes go wide. The Emperor's messenger? You must be super strong. Getting into it, Benlira brags that her job is super special, tapping her sword until it glows with dark energy. She flexes her necromancy skills, summoning a small purple creature from the ground just to show off. The kid is completely blown away. Wow, Master, you're so strong, she says, kneeling down. With total conviction, the kid bows and says, please take me as your disciple. I want to get strong too. Benlira just chuckles, saying, oh, I was getting bored with this daily routine anyway. But no thanks, it's a bother, she finishes. She immediately starts shaking Benlira, calling her a stingy, heartless skeleton for turning her down. The kid is still pouting as Benlira repeats, for the 10th time, I am not a master. The next day, Benlira is trying to get some peace and quiet. Suddenly, the kid sprints past, screaming her head off and startling the poor skeleton. Benlira asks if she's ever going home, but the kid is busy grinding experience with a stick, shouting, I'm not leaving until you teach me. Benlira insists she leaves, worried people will think she's some kind of child-snatching monster. But the kid drops a bomb. Don't worry about that. My house burned down and my parents died. My mom told me I had to get strong to survive on my own. So I have to become strong. She looks back at Benlira with a determined grin. You understand, right? And suddenly, a vision of her dear friend the hero flashes before her eyes. She lets out a long, defeated sigh. Fine, I'll teach you swordsmanship, she says. The kid is ecstatic. Really? Yes, Benlira says, striking a pose. It's not befitting of a strong woman to refuse a child. The kid is stunned. You were a woman? Ouch. After a second of processing, the kid just shrugs it off and starts cheering. As the kid runs off, Benlira thinks to herself, Emperor, your people are really going through a tough time. So I'll teach this child as atonement for failing to deliver your message. And so, the training arc begins. We get a montage of sparring, napping, and practicing on summoned monsters. Their days are full of hard work, running from bigger summons and sometimes griefing innocent travelers. Through it all, the two lonely souls form an unbreakable bond. The years pass. The child grows stronger, her movements becoming swift and precise. She is no longer just a kid with a stick. She's a skilled swordswoman who can actually keep up with her master. 11 years pass and we see a figure swimming in a forest lake. Benlira shows up with dinner. Kid, let's eat. A voice replies, oh, master, and a beautiful young woman emerges from the water. Later, by the fire, the young woman gets serious. Master, there's something I need to talk to you about. Benlira looks up. What's with the sudden serious mood? She explains that her old village was abandoned by the Empire after a massive monster surge. Everyone has given up, she says. Benlira knows exactly where this is going. You're planning to become a hero, aren't you? After 11 years, I can pretty much read your mind. She thinks back to her old friend, the hero. He always said he wanted to help people even when they laughed at him. The hero's words were simple. One does not need qualifications to save people. Benlira stands and presents her with a dagger. As your master, I present this to you. I hope you only draw this sword with good intentions, she says, holding it out to her. Benlira gives her final order. Go save the world, then come back. I will always be here waiting for you. Overjoyed, she leaps up, waves goodbye, and runs off to begin her grand adventure. Benlira waves back, wondering how many years she'll have to wait. She figures it'll be at least 5 or 10 years. A long time for a human. Until she returns, Benlira's mission is simple: protect this place. She has absolute faith in the kid. She'll save the world and come back, no matter how long it takes. All she has to do is wait. Their time together was just a brief moment in Benlira's immortal life. She was alone again. But this time, it didn't seem so scary. Time passes. Then, footsteps break the long, long silence. Benlira sits in the darkness, her cursed sword now covered in vines from the passage of time. A familiar voice asks, did you get lost too, master? Benlira grumbles, I told you I'm not a master. She opens her eyes and it's her student, battered and bloody. The kid smiles weakly, hello, master. Benlira can only stare, her skeletal face frozen in shock. With a bloody grin, the kid says, it's been a while, hasn't it? Benlira notices the missing leg. But the kid just throws her head back and laughs. It was a really wonderful adventure. She begins to tell Benlira everything. How vast the empire was, how many things she saw. But it was also filled with monsters. So she used the skills Benlira taught her to help people. The people called her a hero. But the emperor saw her as a threat and ordered her assassination. Suddenly she stumbles forward, collapsing right into her arms. She whispers, I'm sorry, master. I'm a little dizzy. Weakly she asks, master, have you been well? Did you cry while I was gone? Her scarred hand clutches her cloak. I want to hear your story, master. Then, her voice fades to nothing. As her only student dies in her arms, something ancient and terrible awakens within Benlira. Nearby, a group of imperial soldiers searches the forest for the hero. They're complaining that the hero brat made them chase her all the way to the mountain when she could have, died in a more convenient place. Suddenly, the leader spots a figure in the distance and shouts, "Hey, pack up and get off the mountain." Slowly, with a grinding of bone, the figure steps out of the shadows. "Mountain?" Benlira's voice trembles with rage. "Do you still think this is a mountain?" The ground itself erupts as monstrous purple creatures burst forth, swarming the terrified soldiers. Benlira reveals the mountain's secret. 120 years ago, she found the remnants of the Demon King's army here. She personally slaughtered every last one of them, tearing them to pieces. Their corpses piled up, becoming the very soil this forest grew from. She's been guarding this place ever since, basically gatekeeping a massive undead mob farm. But now, she thinks to herself with black tears streaming down her face, there's no longer any reason to hold back. The Knight Commander desperately tries to rally his men. Everyone calm down and get in formation. He shouts that a single necromancer has a limit to how many undead they can control. Oh, but he was dead wrong. His voice trails off as he stares at a literal mountain of screaming souls rising before him. He can only listen to the screams of his men, his face a mask of pure terror. He stammers necromancy that can create an army. Just who the heck are you? Before he can finish, a spectral blade slashes across his helmet, silencing him for good. You ask who I am? Benlira's voice booms across the battlefield. I am the mouth of the Emperor, the voice of the Empire. She slams her sword into the ground, unleashing a cataclysmic shockwave of dark power. Her message echoes across the land. People of the Empire, listen to the messenger's words. In a nearby village, a boy looks out his window as the sky turns blood red. He wonders what's happening. Benlira delivers the founder's final decree. If the Empire should stray from my will, then I grant the loyal subjects the right to set it back on course. Her undead army stands assembled, an infinite legion ready for war. A new, terrifying figure appears, clad in black feathers, standing atop the skull of a colossal monster. Benlira's judgment is about to fall upon the empire that betrayed its people. My old homeland, now pay the price for your crimes. A soldier who managed to escape Benlira's wrath trudges along. He spots a village in the distance. He thinks he finally found safety. Spoiler alert, he is not. Instead, he gets a front row seat to a massacre as a horde of monsters tears through them. Inside the village, a knight gets the terrifying report. Undead are swarming the southern gate. A roasted potato thing flies through the air, shrieking random words. And yup, it's a living grenade that goes off in a massive explosion. The undead army even has air support lobbing these potato bombs from the sky. Two knights stare up in horror, realizing this isn't some low-level necromancer. This is a full-blown, organized army. One of the knights orders his men to fall back, but a lone figure steps forward. Clearly, he didn't get the memo about retreating. With blinding speed, he activates his wolf fang technique. The guy is a literal whirlwind of steel, carving a path straight through the horde. This guy isn't just any knight. He's an official knight of the Empire, Escher Soma. He's seriously impressed and wonders what kind of necromancer could raise an army this strong. Then he spots his real target. High above the village, a massive flaming purple giant looms over everything. Soma sizes him up. So that's the guy, he says, identifying the necromancer. And look who the giant is holding in its hand. It's our MC, Benlira. Soma finds this strange. A caster leading the charge and not hiding behind his minions is practically unheard of. But as we know, Benlira is not your average squishy mage. Back on the ground, Escher Soma slashes through the front lines again with his super special wolf fang technique. He even slashes Benlira. She's watching everything intently. A slash that only targets the legs from an impossible angle? It's exactly like the cut done on the kid's leg. The realization ignites Benlira's fury. Was it you? She asks. As her giant undead monster crashes to the ground, Benlira drops from the sky, her eyes locked on her one and only target. Soma grits his teeth, bracing for what's about to be a very bad time. Benlira goes on the offensive. Soma barely manages to block the strike. The two trade blows. But Benlira is just too fast, landing a kick on Soma's leg. Soma cries out in pain, his leg now totally nerfed. Before he can recover, Benlira smashes his sword right out of his hand. With Soma disarmed, Benlira unleashes a brutal flurry of punches, completely overwhelming him. She grabs her sword for the final blow. But Soma manages to kick and slash, driving Benlira a few feet back. Beaten and bloody, Soma can only call him a monster. He admits he hasn't been pushed this hard since fighting the legendary Four Knights and demands to know what Benlira is. Benlira's answer is simple, a revenant. Soma realizes he needs to buy some time, so he decides to start trash-talking. He scoffs at the whole idea. Whose revenge are you even talking about? We have killed so many people.
You think I would know who you mean?
He's banking on the fact that necromancy drains a massive amount of stamina. But before he can continue his taunt, a hand reaches out and grabs his face. Soma's eyes widen in sheer terror as a blade plunges into his sword arm. He screams in pain. Benlira's voice seethes with rage. You think killing people is something to brag about? You trample all over Imperial citizens, and for what? Worthless power? For that, you even killed my child. Soma grits his teeth, trying to endure the excruciating pain. His eyes widen with shock as Benlira gives him a kick in the gut that sends him crashing into the rubble. But even while bleeding out, Soma sneers at her. You monster, just keep whining. He tries to justify his actions, claiming it was all for the greater good of the Empire. Benlira finds this ridiculous. So by that logic, your death today is also a necessary thing, right? But he denies her even that satisfaction. Sorry, but not today. Suddenly, a massive pillar of blue light crashes down from the sky, catching Benlira by surprise. The single beam splinters into dozens, showering the entire area in crackling holy energy. Far away, a device powers up. 155 mana batteries connected. The anti-undead barrier is ready. Soma grins through the blood and pain. Mission complete. He screams the order to activate the anti-undead barrier, and a bright light erupts from a mountaintop. The light forms a massive holy cross before exploding outwards in a colossal wave of energy. The purifying wave washes over Benlira's army, hitting the undead soldiers head-on. One by one, the undead minions begin to crumble and disintegrate into nothing. The human soldiers cheer in victory. The undead are disappearing. Soma taunts Benlira, revealing the barrier was made by the hero's party magician 120 years ago. It's the strongest in history. As her own form starts to crackle and break apart, Benlira simply says, I know, because she was there, and it's, let's just say, a strange craftsmanship. Soma just looks completely confused by the comment. Benlira isn't worried. Armies do not matter. I can just raise another one. In fact, you have already created my next soldiers. The citizens your empire has exploited, they will all join me for vengeance. With glowing purple eyes, she delivers his final promise. Together with them, I will bring the empire to its end. But before Benlira can kick off her revenge tour, we gotta understand why she's so fired up. See, her and her old party hated war. They remembered the brutal grind, where every day was a fight for survival and stealing was just another Tuesday. For a hot minute, when the hero was crowned, it felt like they'd finally won the game. But all that hope just shattered into a million pieces. Now Benlira walks alone, realizing their entire struggle was basically for nothing. She's completely lost, questioning every quest they ever took on. With what heart did her past self go into the battlefield with? Who did her past self fight for? In an era without her old party beside her, she feels very, very lost. Fast forward 4 days after the hero's assassination. We're in a snowy village up north. A cloaked figure walks into a building, the little bell on the door announcing their arrival. The stranger asks for directions, claiming they got turned around in the mountains. Some local tough guy isn't having it, telling him this is an adventurer's guild, not a help desk. The cloaked figure, face hidden, says it was the only place open and they'll bounce once he gets help. Another dude gets up to start something, but the first guy waves him off. He's suspicious. He says for a simple traveler, this guy smells a lot like blood. Then he brings up a nasty rumor about a necromancer who wrecked a nearby village. In the rafters, a cloaked figure waits in silence. Suddenly, he shoots out a blade at the stranger. Could it be they were talking about you? He asks. The hood falls back, revealing a skull with a glowing purple eye. Benlira just sneers, telling the assassins they picked the wrong guy, or girl, to gank. She unleashes a shockwave. And when the smoke clears, the hidden assassin is already smashed on the floor. The adventurer realizes the sneak attack failed. He gives the order, kill him. Benlira sighs. I really just wanted directions. She cracks her knuckles, adding, this is on you now. One of the assassins leaps at her with a giant sword, screaming. Benlira just casually ducks under the huge attack. She counters with a ridiculously fast combo. And bam! Smashes him to the ground. The second assassin rushes in. Benlira catches the sword with one hand, then snatches the guy by the throat. With insane strength, she slams the man into the floor. Alright, on to the next round. She casually turns to face the next wave. 2 more assassins move in, but Benlira fluidly deflects their own blades against each other. She grabs both of them by the head and smashes their faces into the ground. The original adventurer is the last one standing, watching in total disbelief. But then, she disappears. Suddenly, she's right behind him. The adventurer's eyes go wide, but he attacks. Benlira reads the attack pattern instantly, recognizing the right side thrust is just a fake-out. She dodges the real attack and lands a perfect counter of her own. Just then, a calm voice echoes through the room. That's enough. A blonde guy with a scarred face stands on the balcony above, calling off his dogs. He says he can give Benlira what she wants. The man introduces himself as Tor Vinland, the guild master for this entire northern region. He smiles, suggesting they take this conversation to his office for a little privacy. Inside, Tor mentions a funny urban legend about a skeleton that keeps spooking adventurers on the mountain behind Changtap village. He says the guild sent search parties, but they never found anything, so he wrote it off as a tall tale. But now, seeing a literal skeleton sitting on his couch, He can't help but laugh. The rumor was real. Benlira isn't laughing. She clenches her fist, splintering the armrest and stating she's not here to chill. Her purple eyes flare as he tells Tor to get to the point. If he's got business, he needs to spit it out. Tor's whole vibe shifts. He gets serious and says his request is simple. He pulls out some cigarettes, explaining that even though the guild is part of the empire, they've been completely ignored. He lights one and lays out their grim reality. People are just waiting to die from monster attacks. Benlira is not impressed. So you're whining to me about your situation. She coldly tells Tor they should have fought back against the empire. If you do nothing, you get nothing. Tor takes a long drag from his cigarette. It's not that we did nothing. He explains they had hope. They thought the hero was going to be their savior. But he admits they were just clinging to a false hope that went nowhere. Tor wonders where it all went wrong, but then he looks at Benlira and it clicks. What we lacked was hatred. He's done caring about tomorrow. He's willing to die as long as he can take his enemies with him, because that's war. With this new resolve, Tor formally makes his request to the skeleton in his office. He promises 2 adventurers right away and the full support of the guild's resources in the future. He doesn't care if Benlira is a demon or a devil. He looks him dead in the eye and begs, "Please, let all of us join your war." Benlira is silent. Then, she apologizes for trashing the guild, admitting it's her fault for letting the Empire's neglect go on so long. She mentions it's been 150 years since she accepted a request, and tosses 2 red tags on the table. Tor stares in shock. It's a ruby rank adventurer's ID. The highest rank from the Great War, a rank that's so old it's now just a legend. He looks at the tiny skeleton on his couch and demands, "Who in the world are you?" "Don't worry about it," Benlira replies. "I'm just an ugly ghost from the past." She accepts the leader's request. And now for the first stop, the biggest and baddest mountain range on the continent. We're going to the Northern Mountains. And for those of you keeping score at home, that's a long way from where she started. 5 days into their trek, a scout confirms they've been moving at a breakneck pace through the snowy Northern Mountains. The goal is simple: stay off the radar of any Imperial troops wandering around. Benlira seems to approve of the speed. But looking down from the cliff, she spots an unexpected problem. What are those bastards? One of her guides guesses that those soldiers weren't after them, they're just lost. They're not even equipped with the right gear for a mountain winter. Benlira asks, "Hey guide, what's down that lower path?" "Muran-same," the guide replies. And the other guy is Sword Harrier. He tells Benlira to at least try and remember their names. Muran answers the question. That path leads to small houses, which those soldiers will definitely raid for loot. Sword Harrier bitterly adds that since the new emperor took over, the Imperial Knights have been on a rampage. Benlira's response is simple and absolutely bone-chilling. "I'll have to kill them then." Her new friends just stare in shock as she casually jumps off the cliff. And kaboom! A massive explosion rocks the camp below, sending soldiers flying everywhere. The soldiers are in chaos. Is it an enemy attack? And Benlira confirms their worst fears. Why yes, it's an enemy attack. Sword Harrier is freaking out, yelling if Benlira wants to die. But Muran just deadpans. "Dude, the guy's already dead." Down below, the soldiers finally spot him. They recognize the infamous necromancer from Changtan village just as she drops into their ranks. She immediately unleashes his slaughtering strike. It's a blur of purple energy that shreds through armor like paper. A female knight tries to rally her troops, shouting that it is just one person. But Benlira's cold gaze says otherwise. In a flash, she is on her. Her blade cuts clean through both the knight and her horse. She holds up the severed head and mocks her last command. "Just one? Are your eyes just for decoration?" Because right behind her, an entire army of screaming purple ghosts materializes from thin air. Up on the cliff, Harrier realizes something. The power Benlira showed at the guild, that was just the tutorial level. The spectral army shrieks and descends, tearing into the completely helpless soldiers. And now she is mounted on a demonic purple horse. Benlira watches the absolute chaos she's unleashed. The 2 guides stare in awe at the ghost of Changtan village. With the battle basically over, Muran tells Sword Harrier it is their turn to head down. Benlira waits patiently on her phantom steed, a spectral monarch surveying her bloody victory. The last of the soldiers are quickly swarmed and overwhelmed by the ghosts. One last knight musters his courage and charges. He manages to chop the steed's head off. In one smooth motion, Benlira leaps from her mount and kicks the soldier in the head. A glowing gold medallion dangles off the soldier's neck. That medallion triggers a memory. Back at the guild, the master Tor Vinland had given her a similar one as an apology. He explained it was a safe return charm, handmade by his own daughter for adventurers. Benlira accepts it gratefully. "Tell her I said thank you." But then Tor drops some heavy news. His daughter was killed by the Imperial army 2 years ago. When Benlira offered condolences, Tor just waved them off. He said everyone there had lost a loved one just like him. They were all the same. He had warned Benlira not to ruin her life seeking revenge like they had. Everyone in this world has someone waiting for them. So don't go too far, skeleton. His advice echoes in Benlira's memory and she stops attacking. But then suddenly, there's a sickening sound. The soldier is skewered by one of her own. As his life fades away, the soldier could only mutter, "I'm sorry." A desperate, dying call to his daughter, Michelle. Shaken, Benlira turns to her creation and shatters it. As the phantom dissipates, Sword Harrier approaches. He tells Benlira to go rest while they handle the cleanup. They will get the fresh corpses ready for her army. Benlira just stands there silently. A dark liquid, like blood, drips from her clenched fist. A while later, a large fire is burning. Sword Harrier can only think one thing about their new boss. What a strange man. Benlira wants them to cremate all the bodies, not raise them as undead. Benlira stands alone, watching the massive funeral pyre. From a distance, Murin notes that Benlira just looks incredibly sad. And as she stares into the inferno, a dark, familiar voice invades her mind. The voice taunts her. "See? I told you it would be your turn, did I not?" It warns her that she'll be forced to make countless choices and fall into even greater despair. But before it can finish, Benlira cuts it off. "Shut up." She tells the vision of the Demon King, "If you're dead, just stay quiet in the afterlife." The creature just lets out a sinister, cackling laugh. It mocks her right back. Does she really consider her current state to be alive? It promises a despair even he can't imagine is waiting for her at the end. And just like that, the vision ends, leaving Benlira alone with its chilling words. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Empire, a messenger rides towards a smoldering, war-torn fortress. On the walls, a red-haired woman named Frey is enjoying the ambiance. She thinks the screams of the dying are delicious. She flashes a terrifying shark-toothed grin. The smell of burning is so nice. A massive knight asks Lord Frey if she wants to join the men in a game of soccer using the princess's head. Frey casually declines. She's bored. The kingdom fell way too easily, and it was no fun at all. She wonders if there is anyone left who is fun enough to pick a fight with the Empire. Talk about perfect timing. The plot delivers. A messenger has arrived for War Knight Frey. He announces a new decree. A massive undead army has appeared in the north, their target the evil necromancer leading them. Hearing this news, a slow, wicked grin spreads across Frey's face. Her eyes gleam with pure delight. It looks like her wish came true. A real madman has finally appeared. She leaps from the wall and gives her command. Assemble the troops. Far up in the desolate northern mountains, Benlira silently leads her new crew through the endless snow. After 2 straight weeks of pure silence, one of her escorts finally cracks, complaining that Benlira hasn't said a single word. He gripes that it's like traveling with a corpse. Meanwhile, his buddy is just baffled at how the skeleton's head is even floating. Talk about breaking the laws of physics. So how did we get here? Let's rewind. Back at the guild, Tor Vinland lays out his theory. The undead is from Spear Tower Village and likely connected to the hero who recently died. He connects the dots. The timeline when the hero was hunted down by knights perfectly overlaps with the undead army incident. But the biggest clue? The undead's fighting stance is a 1-to-1 copy of the hero's. Case closed, folks. Hearing this, Murin Same has a realization. This skeleton probably isn't some big bad. He's just as desperate as they are. Tor's conclusion? Benlira might not be an ally, but she's their best shot at taking down the Empire. So he assigns 2 adventurers to guide her. Since Murin Same and Sword Harrier were both from the north, he picks these 2 to be Benlira's guide. Sword Harrier is not convinced, but Tor just hands him a scroll and says not to worry. He's got a good feeling about this one. Flash forward to the present. Sword Harrier nervously asks, Mr. Undead, sir, that direction is? Benlira turns slightly and finally speaks. Yes, Spear Tower Village. I'll stop by there for a bit. The name of the village triggers a memory. She remembers the young hero playfully putting a paper bag over his head. She pulled her through the bustling streets of her hometown, a place once overflowing with life. They're even greeted by a friendly innkeeper who welcomes them in for a drink. Inside, Benlira somehow nails a perfect bullseye at darts. The entire tavern goes wild, lifting her up like a champion. Yeah, this place used to be full of warmth and laughter. A very happy memory for Benlira. But now, it's dark, broken, and completely empty. Benlira just sits there, all alone. She clasps his hands on the table. Suddenly, a mug is slammed down right in front of her. She looks up. It's the innkeeper. She's older, scarred, but she's still here. Sorry, she says, the inn's been closed for ages. Not using that fancy bread bag anymore. Benlira recognizes her and is floored. She asks how she could possibly know about the bag. She just takes a drink. She says she heard plenty of stories. You're the little kid who used to work here as a teacher, right? She holds up the bottle. It's called D&I, a cheap drink that means new beginnings. Turns out the kid left it for her before she left. It's a custom for adventurers to drink together for a safe journey, but it's been a long time since any were sold. Why? Because there are no adventurers left in the village. The innkeeper understands why Benlira rose up, but tells her that what she's thinking about doing now is wrong. She asks Benlira a simple question. It might be possible to save the people of this empire, but is this monstrous form what her student would have wanted her to become? I don't think so, the innkeeper continues, placing some items in front of her. I think your student would have wanted you to be a little brighter. She gestures to the items on the table. The innkeeper confirms yes, she asked me to pass it on to you, and Benlira is floored. She opens the journal. It's filled with kid drawings of a classic fairy tale. Gathering allies, saving people, and beating the big bad, just like the legendary Red Jade adventurers her party did more than a century ago. One passage reads, I hope to have a fairy tale adventure one day, and I wanted to have it with you. The word adventure echoes in her mind as she chugs down her drink, and it all clicks. Blinded by rage, she was on the wrong path. Kid, everyone says I'm your teacher, but I'm the one who's learning here, Benlira whispers to herself. She rises up to leave. Thanks for the drink. The innkeeper asks where she's off to. Are you a new beginning? She asks. Now that I've had a drink, I should go, Benlira replies. The kid's last wish was to have an adventure with her. Now she's setting off, not for revenge, but to go on that adventure. As Benlira exits the pub, Miran starts talking about their next route. It was going to get cold, but the joke's that Benlira is just a bag of bones, so won't feel anything. Benlira laughs out loud and replies, all right, my incompetent juniors. The guides are completely shocked by the change in vibe. Sword Harrier wonders if Benlira's bad mood is finally over. He remembers the guildmaster, Tor Vinland, handing him this mission with a confident smile. Harrier sighs. Looks like the old man's eye for talent was spot on after all. With that, they scramble to catch up to Benlira, who's already left them in the dust. On the road, Harrier drops a quick tutorial on adventurer ranks. There are 10 tiers from Earth all the way to Diamond. Basically, higher rank means more cash, but you can't grind low-level quests. Most people cap out at the 7th rank, Topaz. Anyone who breaks past that is considered a superhuman. These top-tier players either explore uncharted territory, hold the line against monster waves, or lead imperial armies. To put it simply, he says, you need to be lower tier to kill small fry like these goblins. And the people who kill bigger ones like this Cyclops are middle-tier adventurers. While he's explaining, Murin launches into the air and kills the Cyclops with style. Finally, Harrier points to a huge pile of dead monsters. And this kind of carnage is the work of a high tier. He turns, annoyed. Are you even listening? Benlira just goes, huh? Yeah, of course. Benlira asks what rank they are. Murin proudly puffs out her chest. We're both 5th tier, Topaz. Benlira scratches her head. Huh. The ranking system has changed a lot since my day. Harrier is surprised. You were an adventurer? Benlira casually mentions she was Ruby rank, if that's still a thing. The name Ruby rings a bell, but Harrier can't quite place it. Murin just bursts out laughing. A rank that only exists in fairy tales. Uh-oh, my friend. She just pushed the wrong button. Benlira's voice drops. My undead army? Murin's laughter dies in her throat. Huh? Suddenly, the 3 colossal spectral beasts, the ones they just killed, erupt from the ground, roaring down at them. Benlira just casually says, oh, I can do this too, making them dance. Harrier immediately begs him to despawn them. Benlira chuckles and calls them back, calling them scaredy cats. She then adds that for a northerner, Murin has the guts of a flea. For a moment, her mood softens, as she remembers her old party, her true companions. And of course, the joy he shared with his student. Yes, it was exactly like this. Murin breaks the silence, asking why he's heading to the monster-infested northern mountains. Benlira explains she has promises to keep and things she needs to find, and so on. She explains that she originally planned to storm the Empire with the Demon King's army, but the entire army was vaporized by this dude. Harrier can't believe how that was even possible. Benlira tells him that it wasn't just any barrier. It was a special barrier made by the mage of the hero's party. Harrier puts 2 and 2 together. So you need a human army? Yup. Her goal is to make the northern people her allies. They're horrified. Make allies with those fur-covered psychos? Harrier mutters that if she does succeed, that's a continental super army. Benlira strikes a pose. Her original plan was just to take the Emperor's head, but her disciple talked him out of it. Murin is stunned as Benlira states her new goal. Rather than chopping people up, she's going to rebuild the Empire properly. Sensing the heavy mood, Benlira decides to change the subject. She bluntly calls them out for failing the Great Hunt and running away. What now? She smirks, telling them she'll cut them some slack since it's a long journey. Bring it on. Harrier gets nervous. Let's just go, shall we? Suddenly, Benlira's aura explodes. Feeling brave? She asks ominously. From now on, we're playing a little game. Her voice drops to a menacing whisper. Run. The massive spectral beast spawns in front of them. I'll give you 10 seconds. Harrier panics, yelling that they didn't even provoke her and that she's completely insane. He calls for Muran, but she's already gone. A true friend. Muran is already sprinting away. Let's live and meet again, Harrier. Benlira's countdown is a blur. Time's up, she declares. The beast roars and lunges, and Harrier flees for his life. As she watches their suffering, her thoughts drift to those she's lost. Even though they're gone, their memory is what keeps her going. Then she lets out a small laugh. She erupts in manic laughter, riding the beast. You will be my second batch, my clueless disciples who I never wanted. She yells, be thankful. This I am personally training you so you don't become useless. The giant beast continues its rampage through the forest, chasing the two terrified adventurers. Benlira's true resolve is clear. This time she won't get lost. She will protect them to the end so can continue living as herself and not a shadow of the Demon King. From a nearby mountain, an unseen figure observes the plume of smoke rising from the explosion. I've found you, she giggles. Okay, now back to our little training session. It's a full-on monster chase through the woods. Harrier almost gets blasted by a shockwave, sending him flying. He's screaming his head off, convinced this is his final respawn. But then, a red blur zips right past him. It's a woman with fiery red hair and a great sword. And folks, she's got that here for a good time, not a long time grin. The beast fires off a laser, but she's just way too quick on her feet. She literally slices the beam in half, like a pair of scissors. Next thing you know, she's upside down in Benlira's face saying, hey there. Benlira is completely stunned by the surprise entrance. He just barely blocks her massive blade with his own weird sword. Benlira counters with a tornado-style attack, launching her into the sky. But she's not done. She flips midair for a crushing dragonbone smash. From the sidelines, Murin can only scream for Mr. Skull. Benlira lands unharmed, complaining, an ambush? How rude. The woman just snarls back, who are you? She introduces herself as Frey, here to meet the Phantom of Speartop Villages. Turns out she's Frey of War, one of the Empire's legendary 4 knights, and she's here to fight. Benlira actually recognizes that title from an old conversation. With introductions over, Frey is ready to throw down. Benlira accepts. They charge, and the first clash creates a massive shockwave. Frey grins, easily dodging Benlira's wild attacks with incredible flexibility. Benlira lunges, but Frey uses her own arm as a springboard to vault over her. Then she brings that massive sword crashing down from above. In a wild move, Benlira blocks the blade with just his forearms. Frey doesn't miss a beat, kicking her back into the dirt. Frey thinks Benlira is a weird opponent. Her movements are just unnatural. Benlira's inner thoughts are a bit simpler. What a nasty human being. Suddenly, she flicks a tiny rock shard right at Frey's eyeballs. Then she unleashes a furious combo, but Frey just roars with laughter. The final kick sends her flying across the battlefield. Frey just gets back up, calling the fight dull. Talk about a tough critic. She calls Benlira out for being distracted by her little runts. Then she promises to bury them all together. Benlira just looks at his skeletal hands. You? Kill me? She admits Frey is strong, a true warrior born from hard work. But, she says, your fatal flaw is your poor eyesight. Frey just curses. Did the skeleton just suss out her weakness? A massive shadow beast bursts out of the ground right beneath her. Benlira screams for her crew to toss her a sword, then yells one final command, and a massive red explosion rocks the entire forest. They make their escape on the spectral beast, coughing from the smoke. Classic Benlira move. She cheerfully reveals her smoke bomb recipe includes chilies and powdered turtle shell. Harrier is not amused. Murin is panicking. She knows not even an army can take down one of the 4 knights. Benlira just calmly admits that yeah, she probably can't stop that maniac either. She points to a marker saying they've crossed a boundary. The new plan? Run and be loud. But it's too late. Their enemy has already caught up. Frey is screaming with laughter, wondering if this is some kind of undead army. To her, this is a real war. Soldiers swarm the beast as Murin screams for Mr. Skeleton to do something. Benlira gets ready, announcing her northern style. Across from her, Frey prepares her own spiral style. Their ultimate attacks clash. Giant expenditure twist versus Mad Dog slaughter tragedy. The resulting shockwave is immense, tearing through the landscape. The collision creates an explosion so big it shakes the nearby mountains. In the crater, Frey laughs. A monster, smoke bombs, weird swordsmanship, this is getting fun. Her battle lust is fully ignited. You've got more, don't you, Mr. Skeleton? Benlira just gets up complaining about all the dust. How dare you soil a lady's clothes like this? Frey scoffs back. A lady? You don't even have eyes to look in a mirror. And so begins the classic mid-fight trash talk session. You love to see it. Frey gets serious again, asking why she isn't using her undead army. She's disappointed. Were Benlira's companions distracting her and holding her back from going all out? And then a dark thought crosses his mind. What if he just killed them? He wonders if that would let him finally go all out in this fight. But Benlira snaps her out of it, yelling at Frey for getting too close to an enemy. Frey just blushes with a crazed grin, taunting him for her arrogance. Her expression hardens. She leans in and whispers that she's going to crush her head. But before she can, a volley of arrows rains down from the sky. But a few arrows in the shoulder are just a minor inconvenience for Frey. Frey, was it? Benlira asks smugly. Now pay your respects to the mother mountain of the northern tribe. They had just entered hostile territory. A sinister grin spreads across Frey's face. She finally gets it. She was wondering why Benlira came all the way to the northern tribe's front yard. She mockingly asks if she dragged them all this way for such a cheap trick. Go ahead and butter them up. I'll wait as long as it takes, Frey promises. Frey's eyes light up with manic glee. This is turning out to be the most entertaining war. Bring it on, Mr. Undead. Benlira can only think one thing: this woman is completely insane. Suddenly, Sword Harrier and Muran rush to her side, relieved she's safe. Muran points to the archers. Looking a bit sheepish, Benlira admits she almost forgot about them. She turns and cheerfully thanks the northern tribe for their help. But her friendly greeting is cut short by an arrow straight through the hand, not the knee. Up in the trees, a hooded archer cackles, a talking skeleton. He muses he could drink liquor from its skull. Benlira deadpans. Right, they are that kind of people. Muran and Harrier can only agree. Without another word, the northern tribesmen leap from the trees and charge straight at them. Time to run. As they flee, a tribesman screams, "Intruder detected." Muran is in a full-blown panic. What is going on? I thought you had an agreement with them. He yells at Benlira, who casually replies that their agreement was from about 100 years ago. So yeah, maybe they forgot? Benlira suggests dropping Muran's name, but she explains that would only make things worse since they're fugitives. Especially Harrier, who apparently has some bad history here. Right on cue, a volley of arrows pins Harrier in place. Looks like she has to use her own name then. She stomps the ground, raises a hand, and roars, "Don't move. My name is Benlira Edwards. As a member of the northern tribe, I request an audience with your chieftain." The tribesmen are not impressed. A skeleton claiming to be one of them? Heard that one before. Benlira flashes a peace sign, thinking she's totally solved the problem. Newsflash, it does not. They are now locked behind bars. Harrier is fuming, sarcastically thanking Benlira for getting them thrown in a cell. She bonks him on the head. Muran asks if she really is from the tribe. Benlira, standing over a knocked-out Harrier, replies, "Used to be a long time ago." Harrier snaps awake, panicking. He recognizes this place as Red Sheep Village and says they're totally screwed. He starts freaking out, yelling that their mission was to guide Benlira to the entrance, not make contact. The cell door clangs open. A guard tells Benlira that the chieftain wants a word. The three are led in chains through the snowy village. Benlira notes that the place hasn't changed a bit. They arrive at an arena full of beaten warriors. A voice asks if he's the talking undead. On a stone throne sits the chieftain of the Red Sheep tribe, Red Silk. He scoffs at Benlira's claim. "You've got some nerve pretending to be a northern tribesman." His gaze then shifts to Muran and Harrier. He glares at them, saying they have some nerve waltzing back here. Benlira insists she's telling the truth and asks to be untied so they can talk things out. But Red Silk isn't having it. He's furious that Benlira brought along failures who can't even call themselves tribesmen. Benlira replies, "Oh, you mean the ones who failed the Great Hunt, still treating them like outcasts. Things haven't changed at all." Then she shatters the stocks with pure force. Red Silk grabs his cloak, enraged. "Don't speak about what you don't understand, undead." A warrior tries to step in, but Red Silk brushes him aside. This annoying skeleton is getting under his skin. Benlira's eye glows a menacing purple. "Your skin?" she taunts. That's the last straw for Red Silk. Leaping into the air with twin axes, the chieftain screams, "I'll tear you to pieces." He slams his axes down, but Benlira easily deflects the shockwave to shatter the stocks on her friends. Muran stares at her freed hands. She broke the shackles on purpose. Benlira calmly tells them both to fall back. Red Silk unleashes a Beyblade spin of axe strikes, but Benlira just weaves between the blows like it's nothing. Muran is in awe. The chieftain is strong, but the skeleton's movements are on another level. With blinding speed, Benlira uses her open palms to parry and deflect every single powerful attack. The crowd can only scream as Benlira effortlessly deflects the entire onslaught. She flows around another massive swing which shatters the stone ground where she just stood. Panting and furious, Red Silk growls, "Is that all you've got?" Benlira calmly clenches his fist. No. She unleashes a single explosive strike. The chieftain taunts her, "You're light." "Duh, yeah, I'm nothing but bones." Then, Red Silk's punch connects, and Benlira gets thrown. Red Silk scoffs, declaring that the dead should stay dead and turn to dust. But in the next instant, he's on his knees, completely baffled. His body won't move. He realizes Benlira must have hit a pressure point, paralyzing him in an instant. Benlira completes his speech. The dead should simply turn to dust and fade away, while the living remember them and move forward. She's heard that speech 1,000 times. She flips the script, asking why the living chieftain is kneeling while he, the dead one, still stands. Glowing with a menacing purple aura, Benlira stalks toward the immobilized warrior. She materializes a massive energy blade and looms over him. "All right, chieftain of Red Sheep, now let's talk." Completely overwhelmed, Red Silk admits his total defeat. He asks Benlira what she wants. Benlira's demand is simple: gather the northern tribes because they're going to war with the Empire. As Harrier and Moran rush in, a defeated Red Silk chuckles and accepts the command. He agrees to convene the Great Council and will summon Benlira when it's time. But he doesn't trust her, ordering the group to stay at Harrier's mansion until the meeting. Benlira looks confused. Harrier has a mansion? Red Silk is shocked. You came into Red Sheep territory without knowing that? You mean that kid didn't tell you? Sword Harrier just laughs awkwardly in the background. Red Silk scoffs at the ridiculous situation and points to a massive snow-covered estate. He reveals that her guide's real name is Sword Harrier Hawker, pointing out the clan symbol on the building. The same symbol is tattooed on Harrier's arm. Yep, my friend, he's from an allied tribe. And not just any member. He is the successor of the legendary White Lion Mane tribe. And this is his crib, a massive mansion in the middle of the snowy northern territory. I guess the whole broke guide thing was just a front. Benlira is absolutely loving this. Seeing the usually scruffy Harrier try to act all prim and proper is just hilarious. But Harrier looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. He basically bailed on his family and wanted to forget this place ever existed. Yep, he hates this place. He tells them he'll be in his room if they needed anything. Benlira remarks that he's like a completely different person. Murin is like, I know, right? They're greeted by a scarred-up older dude who introduces himself as Van Sun, the mansion's caretaker. Turns out Van Sun and Murin already know each other. He asks how she's been, and she gives a pretty vague answer. Van Sun explains that Murin is the gardener's daughter, so despite acting like Harrier's friend, she's still technically a servant. He then confirms the big news. Harrier really is the next chief. He was just studying with the Red Sheep tribe for a bit. Van Sun explains that Harrier was sent away to grind EXP. This was the perfect place to learn due to the constant territorial wars happening in this area. But after failing the main quest, the Great Hunt, over and over, Harrier's confidence got nerfed. He went AFK with Murin 4 years ago. All the other servants dipped and returned to their own tribes. Van Sun was left to manage this huge, empty mansion all alone. When Benlira asks why he stayed, Van Sun cracks a massive smile. He couldn't let the place get dusty before its master came home, right? And that's when Benlira gets it. Van Sun and Murin never gave up on Harrier, and the whole tribe has been waiting for him this whole time. Later, Benlira finds Murin outside tending to some flowers. She explains it's a family tradition. Murin admits Harrier would have been a great chief, but that's not why she left with him. Alright folks, get ready for the flashback arc. The story starts with her dad, a gardener named Post Samay, presenting a young Murin to the chief. The chief, Riemann Russ Hawker, is an absolute unit. He's sitting on a throne with a giant white lion pelt just chilling behind him. Riemann believes the mountain itself brought them here. He welcomes them to live as part of the tribe. Young Moran promises to repay their kindness, and a quiet little Harrier is told to give her the grand tour. Their first meeting is a little awkward. Harrier formally introduces himself as they walk through the snow. Then, Murin hands him something on a stick. He thinks it's a gift. But then he realizes she just handed him a stick covered in goat poop. What the heck? With a cheeky grin, Murin introduces herself properly. Harrier, totally flustered, tries to pull rank on her. Murin just looks at him. Is rank that important? She asks. More important than having fun? Harrier is speechless. Murin leans in, calls him a dummy, and then grabs his hand to drag him off. Next thing you know, they're running through the fields and happily chasing a giant, terrified boar. Harrier notices other kids watching them. Murin doesn't miss a beat, proudly introducing him as her new friend. For the first time ever, Harrier feels like he has real friends. Murin never treated him differently. She didn't care that he was the chief's son. She didn't see his title or his rank. She just saw him. And for a kid like Harrier, that was everything. A few years pass. Harrier and Murin are older now, chilling in a field. Harrier wonders if he can live up to his mother's legacy. He admits he's nervous about leaving to study with another tribe. Murin tells him to relax. It's not just her. The entire White Lion Tail tribe believes in him. Finally, Harrier arrives at the Red Lamb tribe. He's greeted by his new teacher, Chief Red Silk. Yes, that same Red Silk. Red Silk promises to teach him everything he needs. He's going to forge Harrier into a true future chief. And the training is brutal. Red Silk's rule is simple. A chief should never ever lose. Time to grind those strength stats. Next up is strategy. He has to learn how to read a battlefield and make split-second decisions with lives on the line. Then comes the academic torture. Harrier is locked in a library and told to master over 2,000 books on history, law, and monster data. The non-stop grinding pushes him to his breaking point. He's literally bleeding from exhaustion over his books. Pushed to his absolute limit, blood dripping from his nose, Harrier starts to doubt himself. Can he really do this? But just thinking about Murin's smile gives him the buff he needs. With new determination, he dives back into his studies, forcing himself to keep going. About a year into this hellish training montage, they get the bad news. Harrier had run away. As Murin is telling her story, a lone figure approaches the village. He's the sole survivor of his unit, now apologizing to the ghosts of his fallen comrades. The guy is so ashamed he thinks he's been blacklisted from Valhalla itself. His survivor's guilt is hitting hard. He was the only one who made it out alive. Yep, the damned wolves of the Empire have arrived to the party. Okay, back to story time. Anyway, every child in the Empire grew up to these stories of the hero and his party defeating the Demon King. Harrier was no exception, and this kid soaked up every single word. He looked up to his legendary mother warrior and the loyal soldiers who followed her. Young Harrier wanted to be just like them, a true hero of the people. He poured all his hopes and dreams into his training, staking everything on his blade. But we all know how this ends. A shattered boy and a broken sword. So right after Harrier bolted, Murren decides to go after him. Van Sun calls her foolish for going into a blizzard, but she's not listening to a word. Ignoring his pleas, she just says, "I know," and walks out into the storm alone. Her mind is made up. She has to find her friend no matter what, and she finds him. Drowning his sorrows at the bottom of a bottle in a tavern, Murren appears in the doorway. "Hey, remember what I said before, that becoming an adventurer might not be such a bad idea?" He looks up and says her name, but she is furious, calling him an egregious bastard. She demands to know why he ran away. His excuse? It wasn't his style. He just laughs, saying he had no talent and zero qualifications to be chieftain. She's not having any of it. Murren marches over and grabs him by the collar. "Don't bullshizzle me. You wanted to be chieftain more than anything else in the world. Who would say that?" She yells. "My teachers," he simply replies. He failed the Great Hunt trial. Not once, not twice, but 4 times in a row. He says his stats are terrible. No battle sense, no magic, no special skills, nothing. All he has are his instincts, and for that he was called disqualified 1,000 times. He tells her she can't understand the pressure of letting everyone down over and over. She asks if running away was the answer. He says at least here, he can finally breathe. But she hits him with the hard question, is this really who you wanted to be? All they can think about is the hero he used to dream of becoming. Fast forward 2 years. The sun rises over the adventurers' village. They're now full-time adventurers taking on quests from nearby villages. Harrier, now a shield bro, just says, "Let's go, Murren." Murren agrees. He isn't his old self, but she sees that his spark is coming back. She stayed by his side for 2 whole years, hoping he would heal, but they never spoke about anything related to the village. But she notices he still carries his tribe's shield. That means there's still hope yet, right? Suddenly, the entire building starts to shake. That was the day Benlira stepped into their lives. The flashback ends. Murren explains that after meeting Benlira, she saw the old Harrier again. Murren tries to explain Harrier's potential, admitting she's not great with words. Then she gets serious, asking if Benlira will actually train him, even if it was just a joke. Benlira says he has talent, but he's nerfed because of a bad matchup with his old mentor. Murren agrees. She thinks Benlira already knows exactly what Harrier needs. Back in the mansion, Harrier is just chilling when there's a knock at the door. But instead of an answer, a fist smashes right through the wood. Harrier scrambles back in pure shock, wondering what is happening. Turns out, what he needs is a teacher to break down his walls. Literally. "Let's go train." Benlira peeks into the hole with glowing eye sockets. Harrier lets out a terrified scream as Benlira casually drags him off to train. Benlira lays down rule number 1 with a smile, no resting until you die. Harrier is freaking out. He's like, "Wait, did you not just hear my sad backstory?" Her response is to grind her knuckles into his head. She thinks he's too noisy. Benlira wonders how he even heard them. Murren just laughs, telling her Harrier just has great hearing. Benlira gives a thumbs up, assuring her this training montage is serious business. Looking down at the knocked-out Harrier, she admits, "I've grown fond of this idiot." Murren just giggles to herself, finding the whole thing surprisingly cute. Benlira is confused by her reaction, while Harrier continues to mumble on the pavement. A while later, Benlira and Murren are at a meeting with Chief Red Silk. He's asking where Harrier is. Benlira just leans back, acting all cool. "Oh, he's busy. I'm teaching him a few things. Don't worry about it." The chief ain't buying it. He scoffs, calling Harrier a weak child who ran away during training. "Nah, you just suck at judging people. You can't even see his insane potential." All the chief can do is growl back, calling him a freaking skull. Suddenly, the main doors fly open as a guard frantically screams for the chief. The chief, looking super annoyed by the noise, grumbles and asks who's causing a ruckus. A gatekeeper rushes in, announcing they've found a survivor from the coastal defense. A battered blonde warrior collapses, begging the chief to attack the Empire so he can die with honor. The chief, now sitting with Benlira and Murren, shuts him down. Attacking first means all-out war and massive casualties. He orders the defender to return to his post, telling him to avoid meaningless fights. But the warrior completely explodes. "Aren't you even angry? We're gonna die at the coast." Benlira asks who this guy is, and the chief confirms he's the sole survivor from the coast. The survivor tells them what happened. The Empire's army set up a massive ambush. It was a complete wipeout that killed countless veteran defenders. Basically, the Emperor has been relentlessly sending forces north. But for now, the tribes can only play defense. Yep, for these people on the coast, they are still stuck in a time of war. A relentless battlefield where even burying your friends is a luxury. Outside after the meeting, Benlira and Murin have a talk. "Sorry, I've been accepted as a northern warrior," asks Murin. Benlira tells her she's already got the right stuff. The brains, the grind, and most importantly, the right experience. She then calls her out. "You pretended to fail in the Great Hunt because of Harrier, right?" Murin gets a little flustered and asks about Harrier. Benlira explains that Harrier is nerfed by his own self-loathing and the pressure of being the chief's son. But the most important stat for a warrior, Benlira says, is having the will of a warrior. She recalls that this cannot be taught, only forged through harsh experience. She should know. She's trained countless warriors like them in her past life. She thinks maybe that's what her destiny is, to pass on the wisdom of the past. She promises Murin she'll awaken Harrier's potential. The next time Harrier stands on a battlefield, he'll prove he's the Chad he failed to become at the Great Hunt. 7 days later, at the entrance to the northern mountains, Frey is just chilling in the snow, yelling at her 2 giant armored knights for eating it. They don't care. It's delicious. And who should show up but the Knight of War himself, Asura Soma. He immediately starts roasting Frey for hanging out with her stupid guys. While Frey defends her knights, one has a brilliant idea: sprinkle blood on the snow for strawberry bingsu. The other is floored by his 200 IQ play. Frey cuts to the chase, asking if Soma came all this way just to reclaim the 4th Knight title. He scoffs. "I don't have time for that. I'm here to deal with that necromancer." Soma then asks why she's just slacking off instead of marching her army into the mountains. She just smirks, telling him she's waiting for him to amuse her all on his own. Soma calls her pathetic and stares out dramatically into the distance. He's a man who doesn't wait. He orders his troops to prepare for attack, sending the 4th platoon on recon. The cavalry charges onward to the northern mountains. With a sinister look, Soma vows, "Wait for me, necromancer. I will make you pay for the face you ripped from me." Meanwhile, back at the northern camp, Benlira checks on the chief. The chieftain looks grim. Imperial forces have invaded the mountains. He explains this isn't a simple raid. A massive force is pouring in from the coast, trying to tear the mountains apart. Messengers have been sent, but they won't make it in time. The coastal ambush was just a prelude to this. His eye glows with pure rage. "Like it or not, this is war, you Empire scumbags." Suddenly, Benlira announces, "Red Sheep Tribe, clear the way. I'm going in." On the battlefield, it's chaos. One northern berserker lets out a savage roar, leaping onto the shields with his axe held high. Watching from a ridge, Benlira smells the stench of blood. So it's come full circle, another battlefield. She has stood on countless battlefields, and deep down she can feel that this time it's different. She's made up her mind. She won't run from her duty anymore, because now she bears all their hopes upon her back. Just then, the injured defender from before struggles up the hill, shouting that he's going too. He refuses to sit in the medic tent while a battle rages on, claiming it's as good as being dead already. Benlira recognizes him and tells him to calm down, but the warrior angrily demands if Benlira is trying to stop him. Benlira wouldn't dare. She only asks one thing: "Do you dream of revenge for your comrades?" He replies, "I do not seek vengeance for my comrades. We are the glorious shields of the Red Sheep Tribe who guard the coast. I am ashamed for failing to complete my mission. That's why I'll fight to finish it." Benlira is impressed. She then poses a question: what if they could wake the honorable dead to fight once more? The defender is horrified. "What are you saying? Raising the dead isn't honorable. It's sorcery." But then his comrades were the honorable shields of the Red Lamb tribe. If there's ever a reason to wake those who have found rest, it would be when their land is being invaded once more. Benlira understands perfectly. She extends a hand. "Well, if that's the case, will you lend me their flag for a moment?" she asks. With tears in his eyes, the warrior grabs Benlira's hand. "I offer my boundless admiration for your dedication," Benlira says as a brilliant purple and gold light erupts. The whole battlefield is suddenly blinded by an overwhelming light. The warrior looks up, stunned by what's happening. "Raise your heads, northern warriors," Benlira commands. "Forsake your afterlives and tread the living land again." The flag of the Coastal Defense Force rises high, a call to arms for those long dead. "Defense Force, return immediately," Benlira commands. And from the frozen ground, an army of the dead answers. "Defense Force, the Mother Mountain you swore to protect is being invaded once more. Please forgive my impudence. We need the strength of you who have crossed over. And not even the rivers of the underworld can stop their return." Benlira orders all remaining forces to fall in line with them in glorious formation. Their final mission has just been issued. Before the night passes, complete the mission and return. Watching this, the lone survivor of the defense force weeps, repeating his oath as his comrades rise. He holds his sword high, knowing his brothers in arms are back for one last fight. On the other side of the field, the Imperial cavalry charges forward. But the undead shield wall holds firm, ready to meet the assault head-on. They are the indomitable shields. They will not break even as magic rains down on them. Benlira asks the spirits of the mountain to forgive her sin of summoning the departed, and pleads for them to allow these soldiers to complete their final mission. Benlira then turns to Harrier, telling him that while the battlefield is a bit much for him, sometimes a little advanced learning is important. Thanks to their new undead army, the scales have been balanced, creating the perfect training ground for the future leader. It's time for Harrier to prove himself, not in a mock test, but on a real battlefield. Harrier just stares back, completely stunned. A real battlefield, a place of total chaos, where death is everywhere. A cold, brutal sight of slaughter. Benlira asks him bluntly, "Can you prove yourself here?" Harrier starts to hesitate, so Benlira just smacks him right across the face. "Clear your head. War means embracing responsibility and curses. Don't look away." She places a hand on Harrier's chest. "I'll carry out my role. You just worry about yours." As Benlira turns to leave, Harrier asks where she's going. He has to settle things with a certain monster. And that monster is Frey, who's laughing maniacally amidst the carnage. "Look at this," she screams with delight. She's finally using it. The undead army. Suddenly, Benlira launches herself off the ledge and shouts, "Now, the time has come. Go, Harrier, into the midst of life and death. You can do it." Benlira's voice echoes in his mind as he dons his mask. "Realize that you are a warrior of the north." Below, the Imperial forces prepare to meet him. Shields up, mages ready to fire. A volley of magical energy streaks through the air, aimed directly at him. But Harrier effortlessly weaves through the attack, dodging every single blast. An Imperial soldier can only watch in shock. What kind of power is that? Harrier lands right on his face and slashes, leaving a spray of blood against the snow. Murin watches in disbelief. Without his shield, Harrier's movements are completely different. Benlira explains that Harrier's best stats are his flexibility and explosive power. Frey snaps at him to focus, but he continues his analysis. Harrier's old style was nerfing him. He idolized his mother, a fierce warrior, so he just copied her form instead of finding his own. Harrier's real talent lies in brawling against many foes at once, using feints and concealed weapons. He flawlessly executes the style, whipping a rope-tied blade right into an enemy's throat. He's an absolute whirlwind of death, cutting down foes with brutal efficiency. Benlira knows the truth. That kid is a rogue and warrior dual class just like her. On the battlefield, Harrier feels no fear. This is it. This is what it means to be a northern warrior. Benlira watches her student, completely absorbed. "Hey, where are you looking? Focus." Exactly what I wanted to say. Frey suddenly leaps through the air behind Benlira and attacks with a scissor kick, warning that if she keeps playing teacher, she'll die. Frey unleashes a vicious flurry of kicks. She's got Benlira by the collar, and boom! Seeing this, Harrier screams, "Master!" But hold up! A new player has entered the arena, unleashing an attack straight at Harrier. Just as it's about to hit, Murin slams down. "Don't let your guard down." Harrier, breathing heavily, just says, "Thanks, Murin." Meanwhile, Ishur Soma observes with a sinister smile. He's not happy that Frey stole his prey, but it looks like he's found another. He's noticed that Harrier's movements look just like the skeletons. Ishur Soma isn't worried. He knows Frey can't beat Benlira. He glances at Murin and Harrier, calling them a mere appetizer before the main course. "Come at me, northern rookies," he yells, challenging them directly. He unleashes his own technique, Doan-style wolf howl, sending out a massive shockwave. Murin cracks a joke about Harrier's glow-up, but he tells her to get used to it. They fight as a team now. For Harrier, everything has changed. He feels a strange new clarity, a world without fear. With this newfound freedom, he moves effortlessly, weaving through a storm of energy slashes. Soma watches, annoyed. Harrier's agility is bringing back some bad memories for him. Losing his patience, Soma unleashes another attack, Doan-style wolf hunt, but Harrier sees an opening. The technique seems to leave Soma winded. This is his chance. He screams for Murin, who immediately understands and shouts back, "Okay." Harrier yells, "Go," and launches himself through the air like a weapon, straight at their enemy. But a sinister, toothy grin spreads across his face. Harrier's eyes go wide. Oops. Soma reveals his attack isn't over. He unleashes the next phase, wolf hunt howling, and at that moment Harrier feels his life about to end. His life flashes before him. He remembers his childhood playing happily with Murin. He always loved stories of northern warriors ever since he was a child. Was it because of his mom? But Murin interrupts his thoughts.
He whispers.
Then, she hangs limp, impaled through the chest. My friends, she took the blow for Harrier. But as Murin falls, the real war is raging elsewhere. On the snow-covered mountains, the ground trembles from a titanic clash. Frey lands gracefully, dodging a massive attack from Benlira. Benlira gives her zero breathing room, immediately charging back into the fight. Frey parries with her enormous blade, the impact sending sparks everywhere. Benlira flips clean over her head, dodging a wide swing meant to cut her in half. But Frey is relentless. Her attacks are a blur, forcing Benlira completely on the defensive. Frey plants her foot, digging into the earth to unleash a powerful new technique. Benlira looks on, confused. What is this new stance? Frey leaps high into the air and brings her sword down, screaming out her attack. The axis of the earth, Horizon Breaker. The blast wave engulfs everything in its path, sending Benlira flying. The force slams her hard against the side of the mountain. She looks back at the carnage. Frey approaches, each step crunching on the bodies of the fallen. You actually took that hit on purpose? She asks why she didn't just dodge it. Was she trying to protect the soldiers behind her? To Frey, the idea of protecting your allies is just strange and pathetic. Benlira just points at her. You're talking nonsense. And why are you stepping all over your comrades? Frey looks down, genuinely confused for a moment. Then, she just bursts out laughing, calling the corpses she's stepping on just lumps of meat. Benlira is speechless. Frey gets serious, saying she has a question for her. She's noticed Benlira has been deliberately alternating hands, even pulling back her sword to throw a punch. Why use your fists one at a time, she asks. She can't quite put a finger on it, but something keeps breaking the flow of her opponent's combat. She wonders if Benlira is confused, or if her old party role is holding her back somehow. With a knowing smirk, she puts all the pieces together. You're a rogue, right? Benlira seems surprised. She admits Frey is pretty smart for someone who looks like a brute. But Frey isn't done. She points out that he keeps glancing back at his allies in the distance. You may look like small fry, but you're actually a knight commander, aren't you? Suddenly, Frey leaps and closes the gap between them in the blink of an eye. Still want to keep looking away from me? She asks. In an instant, she releases a devastating blow that cleaves everyone around her. Frey taunts Benlira, asking how she'll manage to slip away this time. But Benlira doesn't run. She ducks under her wild swing, and with a lightning-fast slash, slices clean through Frey's leg. Though wounded, Frey barely even flinches, her eyes still locked on her target. She unleashes a powerful counter-slash of her own, catching Benlira completely off guard. Benlira mutters under her breath, impressed. She can't believe the crazy woman counterattacked even with a sliced leg. Frey's leaving a lot of openings, but the depth was shallow. Ah, if she only had her original blades instead of this demon sword. Frey pushes her hair back. She still can't get a read on Benlira's movements. Strange, full of holes and weird pauses. She taunts her, asking if her sword is too heavy. Why is she struggling so much against her? But Benlira isn't even listening. Her gaze is fixed elsewhere, on Harrier, holding the body of Murin. Frey notices her attention has wandered. Again, enraged that Benlira is not focusing on her, she clenches her fist and lands a blow. Again, Benlira is sent flying. As Benlira tumbles through the wreckage, Frey calls her heartless. She yells at her for ignoring the hundreds dying around them, only caring about her own lackeys. A dark, internal voice whispers to Benlira, "This is the most relatable thing that Witch has said. Truly you are heartless." It hisses, mocking her for failing to save the fallen soldiers. The voice tells her to look at the endless slaughter, all a result of human greed. Give up and accept it, it says. She was once a hero who fought for humans, only to be discarded by them. In the end, she will end up swinging her sword against them. But another voice cuts through the despair. My friends, it's a memory of Muran. She asks why Benlira is apologizing for the war and blaming herself for bringing it here. She laughs it off. Why are you making it your fault they invaded? They are the bad guys. And as warriors, they just fight to protect their own. It's not her fault. She reminds Benlira that she called herself a warrior from the north, just like them. It's simple then. With the will of the north, we warriors have to step onto the battlefield. Murin's final words echo in her mind. Don't blame yourself anymore. With newfound resolve, she remembers. It's been so long she'd forgotten. She was also a northern warrior once upon a time. Even if her comrades fall on the battlefield, she mustn't hesitate, because she carries the will of all who have fallen. Visions of her old party flashed through his mind. They were only strong when they stood together. The memory of a young, smiling boy, the hero, solidifies her resolve completely. But Frey has had enough of his monologue. Muttering to yourself is disgusting. She slams her blade down, sending a shockwave that completely shatters the ground. Benlira doesn't even flinch, and launches a counterattack of her own. A spray of blood suddenly erupts from a slash through her body. Frey's eyes widen in shock. She's not holding one sword anymore. Benlira's weapon has split into two glowing daggers. You ask why the flow keeps breaking? Benlira thunders. Spinning like a whirlwind of death, she declares, this is the answer. She unleashes the mountain boar crushing slash, a brutal attack that sends Frey flying. Now it finally clicks for Frey. Her face twists into a feral grin. Benlira was originally a dual sword wielder. Benlira answers with a massive cross-shaped blast of pure purple energy. The attack is a blinding flurry of slashes, tearing right through the mountainside. Frey can't believe it. This idiot thinks she can win just because she has another sword. A shadowy form looms over her, calling her a pitiful human. He mocks her, a knight of war who has never actually known the true pain of death. You are arrogant, yet pitiable, he tells her. Furious, Frey is blasted backward, screaming, "Don't you dare look down on me." Benlira lunges forward to press her advantage, but suddenly senses an immense, dark power. Frey unleashes her ultimate technique, the spiral-style heavenly axis, heaven and earth splitter. To counter, Benlira must recall her past glory, the moment she defeated the Demon King. She has to perfectly recreate the single, sharp strike that once felled a god. She unleashes her own ultimate move, the northern-style hunting technique. Far below, the raging battle grinds to a halt. Every soldier, friend, and foe stares up at the mountains. The two attacks collide, and the entire mountaintop is sheared clean off. The final attack's name echoes across the battlefield, Evil Annihilation Quake. The Ascalon Dragon Slayer slash, the mountaintop is gone. In the deafening silence, Harrier tells Moran it's going to be fine. But his eyes betray him, revealing nothing but pure desperation. He desperately tries to hold her mangled body together, but it's no use. She coughs up a spray of blood. Her life is fading with every single drop. He panics, screaming at her not to talk, but the bleeding just won't stop. His mind is racing, begging her wounds to close, for everything to just go back inside. Kneeling in a pool of her blood, he can only plead for her not to die. And of course, the villain shows up to kick him while he's down. Soma looms over them, mocking his pain. He calls Harrier a pathetic, whining little brat. And just like that, Harrier's grief twists into pure murderous rage. "I'll kill you," he says. Clutching Mirren, he makes a vow. "I will absolutely kill you myself." Soma takes the bait, his face twisting in fury as he strikes Harrier's head. Harrier takes the blow head-on, his focus completely unbroken. Soma lectures him about justice, calling him a brainless barbarian. But just as he's about to land the finishing blow, a new player enters the game. A massive impact kicks up a cloud of snow. The attack was blocked. "If we're barbarians," a familiar voice says, "then you must be some kind of monkey." Harrier can only stare in disbelief. Right on cue, his master has arrived. Soma absolutely loses it, screaming Benlira's name in a rage-fueled frenzy. Benlira calmly tells her student to cool his head. She's here to buy some time. Soma scoffs, mocking Benlira for finding a new pet dog so soon after the hero's death. Benlira simply counters, "That crazy red witch earlier asked if I felt any pity for the dying Imperial soldiers. They too have homes and families waiting for them." She admits she felt a little guilt, but in war it's simple, kill or be killed. Facing Soma, her resolve is set. "Yeah," he says, "war is heartless, isn't it?" And with that, she attacks, crashing into Soma with absolute brutal force. Her purpose is simple now: annihilate enemies, protect comrades. No more hesitation. She looks to her student and tells him, "Now you must decide too, Harrier." While Benlira clashes with Soma, Harrier desperately screams for a medic. But Murren stops him. She tells him not to worry about her, to go help his master. She grips his arm, reminding him of his duty. He has to join the fight. Help Miss Skeleton and don't forget your role. Her last thoughts are for him. She wants him to live and fulfill the future they dreamed of. With a final silent plea for him to go, her hand falls limp. Harrier cries out in anguish, his last shred of hope completely shattered. Her final wish was for him to protect everyone. She leaves it all to her chief. Sensing the change, Benlira goes on the offensive, unleashing the frosty grand brawl. Soma just laughs, mocking Benlira's nerfed attacks after his fight with Frey. He twists the knife, asking if she's worried her new student is about to have a mental breakdown. Benlira blocks the next swing with his bare hand. "Harrier will not break," she states. Soma calls her stupid right before Benlira sends him flying with a devastating counter. Soma lashes out with a kick, sneering that baseless hope only destroys people. Benlira catches it easily. "Bull," she says. She declares it's not encouragement, it's hope. Her student won't be blinded by rage like she was. But just as she braces for the next attack, a jolt of pain shoots through him. The debuff from his fight with Frey is kicking in at the worst possible time. Soma sees his opening and grins wickedly. "Caught you." But as the sword comes down, Harrier flashes in, intercepting the blow and saving his master. The force of the parry is so strong it sends Soma stumbling back into the snow. Harrier thanks him for buying time, explaining he's finally cooled his head. Soma gets to his feet, clutching a fresh wound on his chest, and absolutely seethes. "I will absolutely kill you," he screams. But Harrier is ice cold and simply declares player switch. As he faces Soma, Harrier can only think of his oldest friend. He knows he has so much to apologize for, starting from the day they first met. He's always been grateful and always been sorry. As he clashes with his enemy, he repeats it. "I'm sorry, Murren." Soma's heavy blade crashes into his shield, but he grits his teeth and pushes forward. "I have to apologize over and over." Their blades meet in a violent explosion of force, splattering blood across the snow. In a shocking move, both Harrier and Soma are impaled on each other's blades. Soma slaps Harrier hard. He screams, "Let go! Are you planning to die with me?" But Harrier's resolve is absolute. "Muran, I will live for your dream." He lets out a primal scream, channeling all his grief and rage into this one moment. He plunges the sword deeper into Soma. But Soma pulls out his sword. Benlira screams his name in alarm as the impaled Soma makes one last desperate swing. But Harrier is calm now. He easily dodges and slices back, sending Soma backwards. Suddenly, Benlira's sword hits him from behind. Soma curses, utterly defeated. Behind him, Benlira screams, "Harrier now." On cue, magic circle bursts into life from the ground. Turns out the Northerners were playing 4D chess this whole time. The master plan was to lure the enemy into a narrow pass and bury them alive. Soma finally realizes it. They were walking into a trap from the very beginning. Harrier stands over the fallen knight, declaring, "This is the end." He readies his ultimate move. In his mind, he offers a bouquet of white flowers to Muran. He unleashes his final attack. Flame Lance, Death Vicious Hound unleashed, and it's a direct hit. As the vision of flowers fades, he says his final words to her. "Goodbye, Muran." Harrier stands alone in the vast snowfield. Suddenly he hears a voice and turns. It's Benlira screaming his name. Behind, the whole mountain is about to crash down. Benlira screams his name as she leaps towards him. Unbeknownst to them, someone is watching from afar through a crystal ball. The mysterious observer wonders, "Why have you only started moving now?" Benlira Edwards, calling her full name. That's a wrap on this recap. Hit that subscribe button to help us keep pumping out awesome content. Catch you in the next one.